Oh, that's where to go. I would like to call to order the City Council meeting of the City of Monona for Monday, February 3rd, 2014. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Alder Spate.
Here.
Alder O'Connor.
Here.
Alder Holmquist.
Here.
Alder Thomas.
Here.
Alder Bussey.
Here.
Alder Wood.
Here.
Mayor Miller.
Here, but before we rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, I would ask your indulgence. I think everyone is probably aware, but today was one of the saddest days that I've had in a long time as mayor. I've loved being in this position and all the exciting things and the great people I work with and meet, but today we lost one of the nicest people I've ever met through the city of Monona, and someone I consider to be a good friend. And if the public's not aware, but Jim Foley passed away in his sleep last night. He's approximately, I think, 46 years old. I spoke with him, made lunch plans for this week on Thursday, and he was excited about talking about ways that he could continue to work and how he would work with the city of Monona. And I was never more devastated when I was this morning when I became aware. So he had 2 children, a wonderful wife, a son and a daughter, who are students at Monona Grove School. And the one thing I remembered, and he just, probably one of the most thankless jobs is doing 5 years of road construction on Monona Drive. And there was not once where I did not hear just accolades for the way he managed expectations, met with the business community, and over again. I just heard, thank God for Jim Foley, and I always felt so fortunate, as Pat knows, we made overtures to even have him work with the city, that he was so highly respected, and I don't know, just something weird about Monona Drive completing and Jim completing life. So I just came across, he was interviewed with Phase 1 of Monona Drive 4 years ago, and it just stuck with me, and I had kept this file of Jim's quote, and it just read what briefly, if you could indulge me. For someone motivated by responsibility, Foley enjoys his job immensely. Every day there's a new challenge, he said. I love making sure there's a quality product at the end of the job and seeing the completion. There really is nothing I don't like about my job. So if we could provide a moment of silence in memory of Jim Foley, please. Thank you. We'll miss you. I don't know funeral arrangements in the situation, but Pat, if you could make sure we're all made aware. And again, it was of natural causes in his sleep. So would you rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I also want to thank Council President Wood for keeping this group's body glued together 2 weeks ago, so thank you for filling in my absence. Is there a motion for approval of the minutes from the January 21st meeting?
Approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second. Corrections, deletions, or additions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The minutes have been approved. Is there anyone here this evening to appear before the council on an item that's not in the agenda? Seeing none, close the appearances. There is no public hearing. There is no consent agenda this evening. Moving on to council action items under unfinished business. Item 1A is consideration of Resolution 14-1-1953, which is approving an agreement with the Stark Collection Agency for municipal court collection services.
Second.
There's a motion and a second for approval. Are you, Pat, going to speak on this?
Yeah, at the last meeting, there was a question as to volume that we run through this collection agency, and it was discussed that it's very minimal, 10 to 12 on average per year was the number that City Attorney Cole brought up to me. So very minimal concerning the amount of invoicing that goes out for that service.
Other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to item 1B, consideration of Resolution 14-1-1954 is review of the draft sustainability plan and approval to proceed. Is there a motion for approval?
Move approval.
Second.
Motion and second. Ms. Glazer. Janine?
Good evening.
Good evening.
At last City Council meeting, I appeared before Council, talked a little bit about the history of the sustainability plan, talked a lot about the schedule and series of meetings and committees, public meetings, public involvement. That was a very important part of the sustainability plan. We also outlined that this plan was divided into 2 phases. Obviously, once we got into it, realized it was more work than we originally thought. So it made sense. Phase 1 would be objectives, and that's what we're asking for review and approval from Council. And then phase 2 will continue our work through 2014, where we focus on metrics and strategies. Since our last meeting, we did also meet with the Public Safety Commission and had some great feedback from there. They had good ideas on strategies, and did express interest in getting involved with the sustainability plan. So we could see a lot of places where safety aligns with the plan. It could be part of our strategies for accomplishing.
Can you just share some of that discussion? I'm struggling to see the linkage.
I did receive an outline from the Public Safety Commission of some recommendations. I'm sorry I don't.
No, that's
have it in
fine. I
front of
don't
me.
mean to put you on the spot, but
I can speak to some.
Yeah, please.
Well,
Thank you, Brian.
Some small ones that I remember. But some of it had in relationship to some of the areas that are outlined here and some of the strategies that might eventually get put on the table and implemented, that they might have consequences when it comes to public safety aspects, and to be aware of, like when you look at transportation and some of the strategies that you might be trying to achieve one goal, to keep in mind the impact that it might have on safety aspects. So they were just clearly trying to point out that as the decision making happens to address some of these issues, to be careful that it doesn't cause an unintended consequence of a public safety concern. There was also some conversation around how emergency preparedness as a community, as well as individuals within the community, how that dovetails with sustainable concepts in general, and how that can help dovetail or influence in this document. Good discussion.
thank you.
And as Council had recommended at our last meeting, focus more on the educational aspect of things, and then also make sure that we involve school board as we're going forward.
Questions? All right. Yes,
I
Alderwood.
had actually more of a comment of, I know this was said at the last meeting, but just, expressing the thanks and sort of awe at the amount of work and the number of committee meetings that were required to get this done. I think that's second or third page of the packet. That's a lot of meetings. And you said you loved the process, so you must love meetings.
I don't know, but I think the majority of this council has served on the Sustainability Committee since it was formed, and I can remember in the early days struggle on getting definition and vision and direction for that committee. As I look at all that's been accomplished in the last couple of years, it's just incredible what this group has done and the community has done. And Yeah, thank you for the patience as we felt our way through that. And thank you, Janine, for joining us. Thank you, Marie, for your passion with it. Pretty impressive, because I know we all struggled. Everyone who chaired that would kind of come up with a new definition. We seem to have, this would really help. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And Andy, you're the city designee. Thank you, too. Item 2, new business. 2A is consideration of Resolution 14-1-1955, approval of proposal and agreement from Veerbecker Associates for engineering consulting services for Lottis Park improvements. I would note that at Personnel and Finance, when this was reviewed, we tabled it till the next meeting for some of the reasons that I'm sure you will hear from Jake. Yes, Alder Bussey.
Recuse or abstain from any discussion? What would be the-
You can do both.
I'll do both.
Yeah, Alder Bussey will be recusing and abstaining from this participation on this item for conflict of interest potentials. Jake.
Good evening. Lottis Park development, I think we're all aware of the upgrades to the facility, and we were recipients of a $150,000 Dane County Parks grant for this process, and we received bids from our 3 certified engineering firms, Strand, SCS, and Veerbecker, for the engineering portion of this project. So we'll have an engineering portion for everything but the park shelter with restrooms and fish cleaning station. And then we'll have an architectural contract to design the park shelter, restrooms, and fish cleaning station. So the 3 bids were Veerbecker bid $38,900, low bid SCS was $47,465, and Strand was $51,000. And that was in response to an RFP that we had late summer, early fall. And due to the uncertainty of the Tresta project, we kind of put those bids on hold until we had a little bit better information of what was going to be happening with that development. And due with the grant that we received and potential grants we might be receiving for this project, we're now moving forward with the design phase on the park improvements. And so some of the things...
Jump in real quick, because I think this is really important about what you just said, because this was a commitment on the city's behalf in conjunction with the Tresta project. Pat has an update.
Yeah, I spoke, excuse me, I spoke with Robin Farrow today of the Tresta company, and Tresta is back in line to begin their construction. They're looking at a mid-April groundbreaking per se, not officially at this point do I have a date for you, but with the financing that she's acquired, that is their target currently. As the mayor noted, and Jake noted too during his presentation, we sort of put this park portion of the project on the back burner, waiting to maybe do it all at once, where we could design and construct all the amenities, public amenities of both Tresta and the park at once. Given the timing and our commitment to the park and to the grant process, which was mentioned, we wanted to proceed with the park improvements first. Now that we know Tresta has a good chance of being online this spring, what we'll likely do is come back to this body and the Finance Committee and Park Board for an amendment to this agreement and adding the public facilities of the Tresta development into the agreement too. So we'll get a good start on the park improvements here in terms of engineering and design, and then jump into the rest of the project as that unfolds.
Jake, thank you. Oh, no, go ahead.
Okay. And the timing of this project, we're looking at a 2015 construction, but planning in 2014. There's a key date for a recreational boating facilities grant, which would be a larger grant opportunity than we saw with Dane County Parks. That deadline is June 1st. award announcements in August. So we'll have a really good idea, in mid-August before we would go out to bid for construction on where we're at financially. But optimistic that we can see a large percent of this project funded through grant money and hopefully some TIF money if the Traceta project moves forward. The engineering project that you have in front of you includes the parking lot area, the boardwalk coordination with the Traceta development, also on the park side should be a sidewalk, lighting, landscaping, stormwater improvements with the parking lot configuration, dredging and shoreline improvements of the Cove Lagoon Basin. And that's still yet to be determined depending on what permitting will be allowed through the DNR. And then the park shelter with a fish cleaning station, that will be coordinated with this engineering contract as far as the site elevations and where we're able to actually locate that building based on an archaeological study that will be conducted this spring. And an invasive species wash station, which when people get off the lake, they'll be able to spray down their trailer and boat. And then an automatic fee station. So we would basically you would go to your parking stall, you have a pole with a number on it, you go to the fee station, punch in your number, pay with either cash or a credit card, get a receipt, and that would go on your vehicle. So we would also anticipate an increase in our revenue recouping that we have now from the standard fill out a piece of paper and put it in a metal tube. And so Brad Schultz is here with Vierbecker and Associates now to answer any questions that you might have on the actual contract, but we did have some discussions at Finance and Personnel over some language in the agreement, and then also the schedule. The schedule was listed from the fall, kind of after initial expectations on what the schedule would be, but those have since been revised. And I think I misspoke at Finance and Personnel about the independent contractor agreement. We stipulate that with our pre-approved engineers, that they abide by the covenants in that. So the actual bid contract would be what would be signed from Vierbecker.
And the two items that Jake's alluding to that I think created the tabling of this at Personnel and Finance was one, just because this document, even though we're splitting this in two pieces, the original intent and the original capital budget of approximately $800,000 was not only for land improvements within Lattice Park, but also construction of a facility, which was the fish cleaning, the boat cleaning, and a park shelter, an open air park shelter for some covered picnic tables. Because that structure is not listed in here, and it was in the original plan, we just want the historic record to note, even though this is only phase one of a two-phase project, unless Pat brings forth the entire project, as he noted, we want it to be recorded so somebody doesn't say, so you're trying to slip a park shelter through here or whatever. And then the second, as you'll note, it's pretty obvious, because we backburnered this, the timetable is off from what's listed in here. So as long as nothing changes financially, Vierbecker has agreed to allow that these corrections, is what I would call them, be noted to the proposal before it comes back before both bodies. Was that an accurate overview of what we discussed?
Yeah, right. There were a number of references in the agreement to the where did it go? To a new restroom building combined with a fish cleaning station, and since that building is actually going to include a small shelter on the other side of the fish cleaning station, we felt that should just be clarified, even though this agreement doesn't really provide direct services for that. But so that if somebody going back a year from now were to look at it and say, well, wait a minute, where did this shelter part of it come from? It's clear that this reflects what we're actually planning to do there.
Okay, additional questions, Alder Thomas.
So when is it appropriate if we have questions about the structure? I'm particular questions about maintaining a fish cleaning station.
Now is as good a time as any.
I mean, I've been to resorts where they have fish cleaning stations. They require a lot of labor to keep them clean. There's a lot of garbage. There's a lot of flies. We looked into the maintenance of this as well as...
We have several communities that we've had discussions with that currently operate fish cleaning stations, and as a component of a grant application, as a component of the actual use that we're seeing at Lottis, we currently have a lot of day-to-day maintenance with fish, dead fish guts in our trash collection system, and so we're looking at efforts to make it basically it's already a very popular boat launch in Dane County, but I think it can kind of be the highlight of the Dane County boat launch system with an amenity like that. And there's several new technologies with these fish cleaning stations that they're all stainless steel, and so the cleaning of them is really a spray down method of hosing them down right off with water off of a shelter.
But that
You
is
think
done
they'll do
daily,
that?
right? I mean, you have to do it daily.
It'll be incorporated into our daily park operations, correct?
Yeah, you don't want to go several July days without it being...
Well, I mean, I'm thinking on a busy day, even it was once a
maybe
day
so.
enough.
Yeah, I don't know. Is there a garbage disposal in this?
It's-
a grinder? Or
Yeah, it's
if you want to come up?
Compost.
no, it's
Oh, okay.
it's the system that we're looking at is it's a rectangular stainless steel. It almost looks like an operating table, and it has like a hose on top of it, and it has a huge grinder pump that goes back into the sanitary system. So it literally, there's safety guards on there, but it'll grind up everything. And
If they use it. That's my fear.
I would assume that's why we're putting it there for people to use
Well,
that are
Easier said
fishing, and it's a great way to get rid of their fish guts and carp. And right now, if they're catching carp, they're throwing them in the ground or in the trash instead of taking them with. And this is a good alternative.
So this might be the first of a continuing discussion.
Absolutely, yeah. It's a lot of it. The
And
location
if
of
you
the
can educate
facility
us
is.
on it, that's probably a good place.
Yeah. I can send a link to one that we're looking at on the web, and it's a great YouTube video of how it actually works.
I think it points out a great thing, though, of when we have public spaces, that we make sure that we don't just invest in the first part of it, that we have ongoing maintenance to keep up so it stays like a great facility.
and so the other people are not driven away by
Yeah.
the...
Yeah. So I think it's appropriate to discuss, but people are already bringing fish there, and they're already disposing of them improperly right now, which is destroying the park for many people. And so this is an opportunity for us to do it right.
Can we do something that makes it, just like you can't dump trash in the road, that you can't dump dead fish in the park?
I think that would be an excellent ordinance change to
I mean, I
Chapter
think
12
that
of
we
the
need to
Parks
think
Ordinance.
about how, things that we can do that require people to do stuff, including not dumping dead fish. I don't know how well it works, but at least it gives us
Well,
You
Just
think
from
people don't
experience.
trash the road?
no, but carp especially, Lake Farm Park, there's a huge problem at Lake Farm Park that they dump their carp out. They hide them behind it. I don't think it's quite as bad with us, but yes, we should probably have a posted policy that you don't leave dead fish. But I know they're dumping tubs of carp along the fence line at Lake Farm Park behind the trees.
Well, I think you make an ordinance and put up a dummy video camera and
There you go. And give them a
or
grinder
a real
station.
one and give them an option
Alder Spade?
and hold them
I've
accountable.
got two things. One is I'm curious about this grinder.
Here we go.
Does an alderman fit in the grind?
Well, I You know where you anticipated where I was going with this. I mean, I am concerned about the safety, obviously, and I mean, I just think about my own kitchen disposal, and when a fork or something ends up down there, it's a public park, and I'm sure that this is something that is designed to be safe, but I'm thinking about the potential for mechanical failure due to people abusing it, and the safety concerns of children or even adult people that are not being careful. So that's one issue, and I'll let you answer that first.
I think probably the best thing would be to bring back some informational videos, testimonials, so this body can get a better idea of what they look like, how they function, and what safety precautions are taken to make them safe in a commercial setting.
Okay. The other thing I just wanted to address my fellow council members, and with the issues that were being raised earlier, I think it is true that we do have to maintain the facilities that we're building, and to that end, as we continue to build new upgraded facilities, more of them with more features, this council and future councils are going to have to be prepared to staff the Parks Department to be able to maintain those facilities. And that is an obvious statement of fact. If we're not prepared to pay to maintain these things, then we shouldn't be building them.
That's right.
Point well taken. Further questions? All right. Look forward to
Thank you.
seeing the movie Fargo.
Or not seeing it.
Or not. Yeah, I guess ideally not. All right. Thanks, Jake. Item 2 under new business, 2B, you'll note it's starred for immediate action, is consideration of resolution 14-2-1956, the purchase approval of 2 police vehicles.
Move that we suspend the rules and take this item out of order.
There's a motion to suspend the rules, take this item out of order. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Move approval.
Second.
There's motion and second. Chief Ostrenga, welcome.
Thank you. In 2013, we didn't purchase any cars. In 2014, we had proposed 3. We got cut back to 2. We're in pretty desperate need to replace 2 of our prime marked squad cars. So what we're proposing is that Squad 114, which is a 2009 Crown Vic, would be turned over to Public Works, and that would be the vehicle that the new code enforcement officer would use. So it would be sort of repurposed. And then Squad 115, which is our 2010 Dodge Charger, which has really been a terrible vehicle since we've had it, would be traded in, and we'd get a credit of $5,500 on the trade-in. I solicited prices. I went through the state bid and then 3 other Ford dealers, and Ewald Ford out of Oconomowoc actually came in with the best deal for us, giving us pretty good value for the trade-in, which that money doesn't come back to the police department. It goes into the general fund, but it does cut down on the cost of the vehicles. So we're proposing to purchase 2 marked 2014 Ford Utility Police Interceptor all-wheel drive vehicles. Those vehicles have sort of become the state-of-the-art vehicles for all of law enforcement. And we're asking.
All-wheel drive
they're
different
all-wheel
than four-wheel drive? They're not.
They're all-wheel drive. So in other words, they're primarily front-wheel drive, and then as needed, the rear wheels kick in. We actually test drove them when we did our emergency vehicle training through Madison College, formerly MATC. We drove one of those compared to the Dodge Charger, and it totally outperformed the Dodge Charger. It's really a good vehicle.
Are we buying them in our base color, blue or black, or?
They'll
what?
be blue, and then we'll put the white doors on them, combine them. So the fleet will look the same.
Questions? Alder Holmquist.
I just have one. We originally budgeted 80,000, and this is roughly 50. Is the 30 to outfit them with everything they need, or is the 50 include all the outfitting?
No, that's just the base price of the vehicle. We'll need the extra funding to outfit outfit them because none of the equipment from the Dodge Charger or the Crown Vic works in this vehicle.
So are we anticipating the 30 is enough to outfit both of those?
Yes.
Alder Spate.
What's the fuel economy on these vehicles? Do you know?
They're projected to be 20% more fuel efficient than the Crown Vic. So it doesn't get you a whole lot. The Crown Vic was roughly 16 miles a gallon in the city, so it'll give you a little bit more than that. But our cars, you really can't go by. They're basically 6 as opposed to a V8.
Okay.
So it's a little bit more economical, and we're not getting the turbocharged, souped-up model. These vehicles, the base model, function pretty well.
Alder O'Connor.
Assuming we approve the purchase tonight, how long will it take to?
It's
them
a
up
minimum
and
of
running?
60 to 90 days. So this will be after we'd get the funds to pay for it, we hope. We're looking probably around roughly April 1st, May 1st, somewhere in that time frame.
Prior to the Memorial Day parade. So
A good idea.
new squads in the lead. Alder Holmquist.
Just one follow-up, and Alder Spate's question kind of primed it in my head, and it had to do with the Public Safety Commission in response to some of the sustainability reading materials, and I think this is just a fair time to kind of, that question came up, of this idea of how do we look at fuel efficiency when we look at some of our public safety vehicles, and we had a nice discussion about where the opportunities within our fleets are to look at maximizing fuel efficiency and other efficiencies, and where are times that you might not be able to see a significant gain. And we talked particularly like, a squad car might be not the spot where you're going to see the biggest gain, but it might be in the detective's car that's not responding the same way. So just to follow up, that was a nice discussion for that group to decide where to put some of those efforts and where they might not be as explored as much.
And in line with that, Chief, I think we've talked about this, but I would hope we'd continue to investigate. One of the biggest fuel usages is that squads run, even when unoccupied, when they're in meeting with the chief or something, especially in the winter. And my understanding is the electronics of keeping that all powered. But I do know that they make exactly for that an idling system that kicks off cylinders and still maintains a high rate of energy flow. And I don't know if you have any forces that have ever tried any of those, but I'm sure, because that's one of the biggest usages of fuel is in the idle, and our squads idle a lot. Alder Bussey?
Didn't the Charger have an 8 where it would kick down to 4 cylinders just for that purpose?
Oh, that came standard with it, or did we
I
add
don't know if
that?
it's
Was
standard or
No, that came with the Hemi in 2010, and that particular vehicle also had to have its engine rebuilt. It was still under warranty, so it wasn't a perfect.
okay.
Yeah. And we've looked at other things. We've looked at CNG fuel, and there's problems with that. We've looked at propane, and now you look at the prices of propane, that could be an issue too. So we're always looking at alternatives.
I think you have to go with your gasoline, but it's just the idle. I know there's some alternative things out there, but if that's what's messing up those engines, then perhaps not. Alder Spate?
I know we've discussed this before, and I know technology will continue to change, but certainly hybrid vehicles, as someone that now has owned a Prius for 5 years, the great thing about a hybrid is that it pretty much idles without the motor running. And when it needs it, it kicks it on to charge that big battery up, and then it shuts down again. I don't know how practical, I don't know when those are going to become. I mean, I know we discussed 5 years ago the fact that Lexus makes a hybrid that's potentially suitable for a squad car, but no one else really seems to be in that game right now. And I don't know if an Avalon is a vehicle that's worthy. But then again, I know that's a $40,000 vehicle, so that's a lot more than what we're looking at here. Cost of use, though, is something that I hope long-term our sustainability plan will essentially force us to look at every time we buy a vehicle. because, we got to put fuel in this thing, and it's got to work for you and your staff. And so as these sorts of vehicles become more mainstreamed, hopefully we can at least be considering them. I'm not disappointed that you don't have something here tonight, because as someone that's interested in this, I know that it's not really ready for prime time yet for your use, but I think it will be soon. So
There was a department in Colorado that went to the Toyota Highlander hybrids. This is going back 6-7 years ago, about the time we bought our Toyota unmarked squad, and they've since gone back to it just didn't. They just weren't durable enough for them.
right.
And I think that is one point some of you might not be aware, but Chevrolet, Chrysler, and Ford all redid this in the last 2 years, police-specific squads, and this one that the chief's talking about, this Ford, is truly the replacement vehicle. It's not taking a passenger car and making it into a police car. These were designed to be squad cars from the get-go, I think. And they're pretty popular, and they're going to become the Kleenex of squad cars, I think. So, all good points. All right. Any further discussion? Seeing none, would the clerk please call the roll?
Alder Wood.
Aye.
Alder Spate.
Aye.
Alder O'Connor.
Aye.
Alder Holmquist.
Aye.
Alder Thomas.
Aye.
Alder Bussey.
Aye.
Order away, Chief. Thank you.
you.
Is there anyone with any miscellaneous business this evening? All right. As has earlier this evening, we had a closed session at Personnel and Finance where we reviewed the goals that I had put forth for the city administrator, Pat Marsh, and we're going to clean up a couple points, and those will be part of your general counsel packet at the next meeting, and will be public in terms of what my and our expectations of Pat for his goals are. But one of those goals I note is that I've asked Pat to have one of the department heads present their state of their department. That came out of where quite often some of us hear from a committee or a department head only once a year in the budget process, and I just don't think that's enough to really know what's going on. So once a quarter, each department head will come forth, or the first meeting of every month, there will be a presentation by a department head over what's going on in his department. So tonight, Andy Hagan from Broadband Communications Committee is here, and a lot going on in that department, so I thought it would be good with the radio station that Andy appear before us tonight. Welcome.
Hello. Give me a second here.
A test to see if broadband works.
Yeah, it takes a second for the thing to send through the system. And I'll have to unmute the front monitor here too. Here we go. So I'll start this briefly with a review kind of last year, and then looking ahead to the projects coming up in the next few months. Last year, the main thing obviously we do is we tape programs. We added 285 programs into our system last year, which is pretty high for a town of our size. You would typically expect in a town of 8,000 around 100 shows being added a year. Just based on staff and budget levels. The reason we can add that many is because we have a partnership with the Monona Grove School District, the high school kids. They tape sporting events and concerts like that. They added 72 of those shows. We did 50 newscasts and then 110 meetings. So that 110 meetings, parades, public events, that's what you would typically see at a station of our size. And we had 53 programs submitted by the community. Another big accomplishment was our history video. It was the 75th anniversary of the town, and we spent about 200 hours in the summer doing interviews, research, scanning documents from the Dean House and from the library here, and edited that together into our hour-long program at the Heritage Days. If you remember, the parade started at a different location last year than normal. That was actually quite a big project for us because there isn't a way to go live from anywhere past Nichols where it started. So what we did that was a big project last year was we got Charter to put in a new it's called a drop point. It's a place where you can plug into and turn off our system at the high school and turn on a system in a car and go live from that point. But the problem was the only place they could put it in was across the street up on top of the post. So we had to get the Public Works with a boom truck and string a cable across the street and then drop it down. And then the day of, when we were there, we had permission from Anytime Fitness to use their power, but then they decided they wanted to have a jump castle, and that was too much power for the circuit, so we had to run around and do another find another outlet in order to plug into for the parade. So bigger project than normal. And then the big project, which I'll touch on more a little bit later on, was last year we finally got to our application for the low power FM station. Most of you were probably on the council when we applied, or when we first came to you about this. In 2008, we were under the original impression that this was going to happen lightning quick. And lightning quick, apparently, to the FCC is 5.5 years. But we were ready to go. We had filled out the application back then. We contacted an attorney in Washington who has helped many stations. And back and forth, we were ready to go. Then the government shut down, and that delayed the process a little bit more. But we were, again, ready to go. We got the application in, and because of it, our application was actually approved really, really quick. It got approved on January 15th. So that's obviously going to be one of our big projects for this upcoming year. And then another project that came up near the end of the fall, the school district has been remodeling their district office, and the process didn't go as well as it could have. It was really the best way to put it is they had a really good engineering firm that's really good for designing structure and energy efficiency, but they're not an internal usage thing. They don't design how rooms run, and so they really didn't even put any thought into what they needed for media until August. And so that was kind of a end of the year process to change plans before they pulled too many wires and get some other wires pulled in. So the new projects for this upcoming year, I just hired a new senior cablecaster. That's my assistant. You'll see him at all of your council meetings here. His name is Justin Janis. He actually was in the video club with us back when he was in high school. He graduated in 2009, and he's been working in McFarland for the past 2 or 3 years. He's continuing to work in McFarland. He'll work with us Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, and he'll work McFarland Tuesday, Thursdays. One, because of our relationship, and also the McFarland director is Eric, who used to work for us. We're hoping that will help us share equipment, share staff, or hey, you try out this and tell me if it works. I'll try out this and tell you if it works. So a lot of sharing like that, we hope will help streamline things, make it smoother, for both of us. Video server was approved in our capital budget. This is basically what handles our playback system. When we record shows, we put it in the server, and then we use it to schedule. We'll be ordering this soon. I'd like to get it up as soon as I can. Also, the new systems will allow things to feed to the website automatically, like our schedule. I'm looking to see what I can find one that will work on portable devices and Apple devices especially. I don't know. It does work on desktops. The systems say that they're working on iOS devices, but no one's using the iOS device yet. So or no one's using that part of it. So I haven't found one that I can confirm will do everything that I want at this time. In addition to their AV equipment, like the projectors and the TVs, the board actually then, just 2 weeks ago, decided that they'll put in a system kind of like this. And so we'll be installing cameras and microphones. We actually already put in the microphones. We'll be installing cameras over the next 2 or 3 weeks to be ready for the next board meeting. Elections are coming up in April, and there will be there will be 4 candidates running for the 3 seats, so we will be hosting an election for them. That usually takes about a month of planning. We have to go through the League of Women Voters and get a moderator, and then promote it. And we'll usually plan on that around mid-March. And the big project, which I'll spend most of this talking about, is our low-power FM station. We did get approved in January. That approval is not a license. That approval is approval for a construction permit. The way it works is you get approved for a construction permit, and then you have about a year and a half in order to. And then once you build it, then you actually say, "Hey, we built it as we said we were going to. Come out, test it. Everything's working great. Please give us our license." And then that's when they would actually give you the official license. So we have 18 months or so, which brings us to midway through next year to design and build a radio station. And in order to, it's going to take a long time. I don't think it's going to take the full 18 months, but there is a lot we have to do. First of all, to review for those that weren't here, the reasons why we applied for the low power FM. The primary reason is it's for emergency purposes. That's actually why we are awarded the license. Is municipalities can apply for low power FM frequencies in order to provide emergency information to people. Most significantly, we wanted it because it's a form of providing information to people that's kind of just always there. Everyone has a radio somewhere. Even when the power goes out, your car is going to have one, or a person has something battery powered. I think a good example with providing emergency information happened when the power went out during the cold snap about 3 weeks ago. A lot of people had power in their house, but because the power took out the charter service, they didn't have internet and they didn't have cable for those 2-3 hours. And so that's another reason why having a radio station would be able to get information in a situation like that if other means of communication like cable and internet went down. I'm actually hoping that it will help encourage volunteers. We have a great group of volunteers with high school students. Like I said, they produce a quarter to a fifth of all of our shows. But I would love to have more adults volunteer also. I'm kind of hoping what I think happens sometimes is people think that making a TV show is a lot easier than it is, and so I've had people that say they want to, and then I have to film this, and then I have to edit this, and then then I have to burn it to a disc, and I think that's a little bit more daunting to people than they realize at first, and so I'm hoping that maybe a little way for a person to communicate like a community access station, but having the simplicity of only having to think about what you want to say might provide a avenue for people to volunteer that or just people that are camera shy that don't want to be on TV may help out at that time. We thought it would be a good way to promote Monona and kind of bring Monona together. As you'll see, it really is a perfect size. LPFM is a perfect size for the city of Monona. And so having people volunteer or having local events that you can, you can't make it down to the concert in the park, but you can still listen to it on your radio. Something like that might interconnect people with each other a little bit more. Educational opportunities, where we're hoping to locate it, and there's a good sign it will be, is at the high school, just like with the community cable station. Stations that don't partner with high school they have significantly lower participation. It's just the way it is. You need to have staff of some form. Either it's going to be paid staff, and if you're Madison, you can afford to pay 8 full-time staff. That's not going to happen for most stations. So having it at the high school where you have kids with a lot of time on their hands that can come in and tape an event has helped us. But I also think it helps the kids. Like Justin, he started out on a video club and then went on and got a job at McFarland. A lot of my kids have gotten jobs working down at the Monona Terrace, just because people learn the skills that people want, and so there is an educational side for the kids. But then there's just the radio side that I think will be helpful. Talking about radio in physics, or talking about doing something for speech class, or how it's installed for a technology class. There are different classes that can use it other than just you going in and transmitting something. I'll be meeting with the principal and the director of the director of instruction about the ways to incorporate it into other educational courses at the high school on the 21st. And then the last reason to apply, even though we thought it was going to happen 5 years ago, we knew back then that it might be a once-in-a-lifetime chance. And it probably is a once-in-a-lifetime chance. So if we do it and we hate it, it's still easier for us to give it up than it is for us to get it in the future if we decided later on that, we should have done that back in 2013. Again, like I was saying, LPFM really is perfect for Monona. You get about a 3.5-mile range, which is that yellow outer circle, which easily encompasses all of the city. The orange inner circle is what they call the city grade strength. The main difference with that is if you've ever been in your car and you hit scan and it skips past some stations, but then there was a station there and you tune back in, that's kind of the difference. So if you're inside that orange circle, it should hit you no matter what when you hit the scan button. On the yellow side, you would probably have to manually tune it to our station. And then the process is going to take up a lot of the next few months. I've never worked in radio before. Luckily, though, a lot of people on our broadband committee have, and they know a lot more people that have also and have connections to either the school district or the city. So before we formed the committee before we formed the committee 5 years ago, we had a subcommittee. A lot of those people have moved on, but we'll be reforming 2 committees this time. The first one is kind of a technical committee because they're going to help us with these next 2 or 3 items here. We need to identify the equipment that we need as compared to the equipment that is, fun and not necessary, but when we'd love to have if we could get it. Then we have to specifically find a tower location. The 2 ideas that we're looking at now, one is on the roof of the auditorium at the high school, and the other is on a flagpole of the football field. There's advantages and disadvantages of each. One, the school board is looking at redoing their lights and sound system on the football field, and it would make sense if we want to do it there to do it this summer when they're doing that renovation. But the downside of that is then we'd have to find a way to get our signal out to that part, and the internet is not a good connection between those parts of the building. So there's pluses and minuses to doing it at both locations. The advantage is it's closer on the roof of the auditorium, but then you're punching holes through the roof of the building, which I don't think it's going to prove a problem, but it's always nervous when you hear that you're going to be doing something like that. Once we decide a path and which equipment we actually need, we need to just draw it up and have everything diagrammed, because then we need to go and get approvals from the Planning Commission and from the school board. These 4 items here are kind of, I describe it as one of those puzzles that you have to move one piece and then you move the next piece, and these are all kind of be working in at the same time. If the school board does approve the football field new towers, they'd like to do that over the summer. So we would ideally like to complete these 3 items. Well, we form the committee and then complete these 3 items in the next month to 2 months, so that we can be ready to go once they would start that construction in the summer. Near the end of our actual design, we'll actually be forming the second committee to talk about programming. This is kind of the where the principal and the director comes in. How can we use this for educational purposes? This is also kind of a committee to help generate public interest in it, so that when it's ready to go, we have people knocking down the door ready with their shows to put on the air. Also, the advantage of forming a committee near the end is you can use some of the energy to possibly fundraise for that equipment that we don't need, but we'd like to have. We have been, for the past 5 years, been earmarking a small amount for the equipment. I actually do think the amount we have would be enough to get us on the air, although I think it would be a bearable system where we're taking the audio of our video at the same time. You'd have a separate soundboard, but it wouldn't be... we have a room kind of set aside that we would turn into a studio, but I don't know we would do much stuff to furnish that with the money we've been earmarking for the past few years. And then we have to install the equipment and turn on the transmitter, and then apply for that final license from the FCC. Again, if the school board does the football field, I actually think that would be our most likely thing. I could conceivably see the tower being installed early, and then the other equipment brought in later once we have the programming and the the rest of the equipment installed. And that's the short summary of how. As far as a total timeline, I would like to get it. Ideally, I would like to get it up and running this summer. I don't know that I can promise that, but I think conceivably sometime during the next school year is when we would probably see it up and running.
Alder Thomas?
Yeah, just a couple questions in terms of access. I understand the school. One of the challenges, I think, with the school is that it's not open at night for the public to access it. So I hope you can work that out. I would encourage you, as you are looking for audiences and looking for programming, that you involve the seniors, because there's lots of things. I mean, we're going to the internet for a lot of stuff, but there are a lot of seniors who don't know about that. So if we're going to do trash pickup, if we're going to do, the notices of what the city's doing and what's going on, it's a very handy thing for seniors. So I clearly would somehow see if you could get someone from either the senior commission or the seniors to talk about how you can involve and do programming for them. The library comes to mind as the second place to include, because people could read stories over. I remember way back when the cable first started, the cable person actually had a video club out of the library, and they taught young people, and they did programming here at the library and worked in partnership with the library. So
I restarted that a few years ago. The youth program we call YPTV, and we do it in the summer. You sign up through the Park and Rec guide, like the baseball or soccer. The library has expressed interest in using the station also. And probably the way that they would connect would be the way that people would do it after hours. Almost every system here has a dial-in or a Wi-Fi, a internet-based system. So if you have your own computer that's got a webcam with a microphone on it, you would basically just log in into the system and switch to your computer feed and do the same way you would do a blog from your computer. You would blog and it would go into the radio. So so you can access it from remote locations? Yeah, you would have to train the person and give them a password in order to log into the system. But then, whenever they have it, they would go to My Monona Radio or myradio.com and type in their name, password, and then go on. We have a system with our streaming, and it's just you launch the program, give it a few seconds, and then just click go live when you're ready for it to turn on the air.
Okay, last question. Is there a way? I'm the least tech savvy of anybody in this room, but I know that you can get radio stations on my computer.
Mm-hmm.
can I get that, will I be able to get this radio station
I would
connected?
probably do it through a streaming system like that instead of one, like, the way most people get on their phone or on the radio is they download a specific app, and that app is actually owned by a company that's trying to promote their radio stations. But yeah, like I said, the same way people blog, you can podcast onto a radio all the time, or you can live stream onto a radio. So it would probably be, go to the website, and then the same way when we go to our website now, I can probably show you here, and you can watch our channel down in the corner. You would be able to just click listen to my radio on your phone. So you would go use your web browser on your phone to go to the website, like our city's website, and then you would just click on the little button to watch it. So now you just go to Monona TV, and down at the bottom is our channel. And you'll see me lovely this in a few seconds here. So you just go to Monona TV. Yeah, and I don't want to hear myself, so.
You're gonna mess with the time-space continuum doing that.
Yeah, it's processing, and so it's like you said, it's 10 seconds late. But I think most people wouldn't notice that on their phone or whatever. I don't know if that's friendly app or not.
I was waiting for that part to come up because I was looking at it before. Because what happens is in the mobile view of it is not the correct view for our website.
They're working on it. They're very aware.
But when you switch it to
view the full site.
I don't think it gives.
The problem, I don't know. It depends on who you're talking to, but basically, the main thing that all these websites run on is this program called Flash, and Apple doesn't like Flash. And whether Apple says it's because Flash eats up too much memory, Flash says it's because Apple wants everybody to pay Apple money in order to use the Apple system. The truth is probably somewhere in between. But the reality is there's a lot of programs that have video players or something like that work fine on your desktop, and you find they don't work on Apple devices.
Hey, I have one last question that has nothing to do with the radio station. When's the school board meeting going to be live again?
I don't know when. We will definitely be working on it. One thing that I just found out is the new servers have what's called a V264 option, which allows us to do another box and stream it directly from that box into our server back up at the station. And that might actually be the way that I do it. The problem was when they gutted the building, they cut all the wires, and it's going to be a big pain to find a way back down into the basement to get the signal out from the third floor.
So my request is, until it's live, is it possible to have the school board meeting run like the night after the meeting?
Yeah, we normally play the next day at noon, but we could play the next day at 7 also.
Yeah, because lots of people work during the day, so. Thank you.
Alder Wood.
Speaking of the website, I was just looking, and I didn't find really anything on the website about the low power FM station. I mean, there is, if you really go in and search, you can find stuff in agendas and things like that. And I was thinking that at least part of your presentation tonight maybe could be modified and put on the website, because it was a pretty good explanation. And it's kind of exciting. I always thought it was a neat idea, but kind of now getting into the specifics of some of the things we could do with it. But it'd be nice to use that nice shiny new website and get the word out.
Good. Further questions? Just a couple I would have, Andy. In terms of how many students in the course of a year do you think we touch?
Well, quite a few.
Become active.
I would say total students is probably 25 to 30, but consistent students is usually around 10 to 15.
Do they get credit? Is there such a thing as the video club?
There is such. It is an activity. It is an extracurricular activity. So when they sign up for it, they do have to maintain their GPA and abide by the student handbook. There isn't credit for it. It's always kind of been a training ground, and so what happens is there's the people that are reliable and stick with it. We hire. That's who becomes our cablecasters here for the city. So there is kind of an incentive for some kids to do more, just because then they can actually come to work for a meeting and get paid for doing something that they were doing volunteer
How
before.
many paid staff do we have? There's yourself,
6.
your assistant, and then
Right. I think there's 6 cablecasters and 1 senior cablecaster.
so they can use this as a part-time job during their school.
Well, but the reality is, I usually have kids their sophomore and junior years, because then when it gets to their senior year, they need more hours than what we're paying them. Most kids are only getting 2 to 4 hours a month, and when they're starting to get ready for college, that isn't enough money. That's great when you just get your driver's license and need to fill up gas, but that doesn't pay tuition. I'd say most of the kids, some kids even wait every 2 months, but I'd say most of the kids write 2 to 5 hours on their hour sheets each month.
And then I guess my other question, just in the general sense, what are you most proud of that the cable group has accomplished during your time?
In my time,
Yeah.
My most proud thing. Well, I'm really proud of the kids. I didn't volunteer when I was in high school, and I would say most of my friends didn't either. So just that, I realize that they do get paid, so it's less volunteering. But it starts out as, they might spend their entire freshman year volunteering. I think that's something commendable. As far as what the station has done, when I started, we were actually doing about 150, which is still more than what most stations our size was doing. But to go from 150 to 280 or so is pretty consistently. Last year, we actually did 330, which is the most we've ever done. So that's more than double the number of shows from what we were doing. But I don't know. I guess my job is a lot of little tiny crowd moments. Like before this meeting, we had to. They switched the phone systems up at the high school, and it's now all internet based. And we were using a lot of equipment that was running off of the traditional phone lines. And so finding a way to work with the new phone system, no one cares about that, but you have this sense of accomplishment when you get it to actually work from something that.
And it is working?
Yeah, that's how we went online. Before, when they switched the system, we actually had to send Austin up to the high school and manually turn something off because it wouldn't connect to the phone anymore. And we finally found a way that we could get it to work through the internet, and so now we can remotely turn it on and turn it off from here.
Good. Any other questions? Alder Thomas?
You talked about what kids accomplished, and sometimes some of us may get frustrated because we don't see as much original programming. But I have heard from parents who have been pleased because their kids have taken career paths. And Andy has been mentioned as being a really good mentor to the kids at the high school who are part of the program. And so we have a lot of kids in the community who have gone into the field. And I'm sure that's true of all communities, but certainly it is true of this school district. And I've heard that from a half dozen parents. So you wouldn't say that, but I mean, because you don't talk to the mothers, but I do.
Well, I've had a couple. I mean, there's a lot of people that have gone into broadcasting or technical fields through this. And like I said, a lot of my kids, when they go on to the UW, they get jobs at the Terrace just because they know the kids know their stuff when they come here. So.
All right. Additional questions? Seeing none, thank you very much,
you.
Andy. Appreciate it. And hopefully we'll just continue this process of book reports on the first meeting of the month. Any additional announcements? Anything from staff? Marie, were you just here to get away from taking care of the kids, or? Okay, that went so easily for you. That's good. Everyone got a chance to meet our new editor, Dave Carlson, at the last meeting. Dave?
No.
You weren't here? Oh, okay. Well, welcome. Do you want to come up and just share a little bit, since you'll be here for years and years and years and years to come, so we get to know you better, and the public can see?
I didn't know I'd have to talk if I
Exactly.
Welcome.
Yeah, thank you. I am Dave Carlson. I'm the new editor at the Herald Independent, your paper serving the Monona Cottage Grove community. I took over on December 30th, so I've got about 4 issues in now, and still trying to get to meet all the people in the community that I need to which probably is a losing proposition. I'll probably never meet everybody that I need to. But as you know, we are a weekly paper, although we are trying to make more of a push to be sort of an all-the-time news content provider. The drawback of having a weekly paper by its nature is that by the time it gets into print, it's sometimes woefully or close to out of date. So we try to keep things fresh and sometimes take a look forward rather than taking a look at what has happened. But the way that we're trying to do some of the more current news content is by using the website, using Facebook, doing some Twitter to get information out as it's happening. In fact, one of the things I'm still hoping that we're going to be able to do is during the upcoming Olympics, that we're going to be able to get some reports from Tom and Joanne Vetter about in Sochi watching their daughter Jessie in the Olympics as a member of the women's hockey team. That's something that if we just waited for print, it would still be interesting, but it's not the same as if we can get pictures coming back, that they might take, say, same day or the next day. So that's the kind of thing we're trying to do. Obviously, and I think I told the mayor this when I talked to him way back early in January, is that our goal is that no one covers Monona Cottage Grove and the Monona Grove School District better than we do. State Journal kind of takes a flyover, 37,000 feet view of a lot of communities in this area, and we take a look at, just these 2 communities, and we want to try and do that job the best that we can. So, that being said, I know I missed your meeting 2 weeks ago, but we're here tonight and trying to really make a presence. Whether I continue to do it or whether we have somebody else doing it in the future remains to be seen. But I think it's probably going to be me because
we're such a fun group.
Yeah. And it seems like you have pretty efficient and short meetings, which is good too.
We're trying.
Well, based on an experience sample of one here. My background is actually I've worked in media or public relations for almost 30 years now, since right out of college. I just turned 50 last year. First 8 or 9 years of my career, I was a reporter, TV, newspaper, TV, radio up in Eau Claire, Marquette, and Wausau. And then I also did some freelance writing for the Milwaukee Sentinel back in the early 90s. And then I took about 20 years off from the media and worked as a public relations manager or communications manager in one shape or another for 3 different governmental agencies before finally getting back into this year. And I'm remembering what I liked about it. It's just really neat to go out and be active and part of the community, and it's something different every day, which is really appealing. So, besides this, I also do sell real estate part-time for Century 21. So I'm trying to cobble those 2 jobs and a couple of other little part-time ventures together. So I keep busy. And I live out in Cottage Grove.
I wasn't going to bring that up, but I'm trying to recruit him to come in from
my
the
fiance owns a house out there, and I moved in with her last summer, so probably not going to pull us away. But I really am enjoying, very honestly, spending time getting to know Monona. It is a beautiful city. You have really a lot of resources and a lot of attributes going for you. As I've already written a little bit, and I'm getting a feeling you have some unique challenges in this community in terms, say, of development. You can't just go out and annex more land and put a factory or put some kind of a business or warehouse there or whatever. You have to recreate and redevelop, and that's totally different from out to the east there in the other half of our sister communities here, where they have an industrial park that's got vacant land, and you can pull somebody in and they're annexing. I didn't realize until a couple weeks ago that they had annexed sometime back about 120 acres north of Interstate 94. So their village of Cottage Grove is now north of the interstate, and I guess they actually made a pitch for Cabela's to come out there. Cabela's, of course, actually ended up in Sun Prairie. Oh yeah, that's the other thing. I was a member of the Sun Prairie City Council for 5 months last year before I moved to the Cottage Grove.
Good. Well, we definitely welcome you, and
Thank you.
I've enjoyed your columns so far and your editorials. So once you get your feet well underway,
That's because I haven't.
they
written
might
about
have
Monona
land,
yet.
but we can pull rabbits out of our hat here in Monona too. So you'll have a fun ride. So thank you and welcome.
Thank you.
And I look forward to listening on our radio station to the Herald Independent Radio Hour. So that'll be good. All right, committee reports. Alder Holmquist.
There is a family attraction and retention and city promotion meeting later this week where the main item of discussion is continuing the discussion about the fulfillment of the original mission of that committee and to make a recommendation back to council at the end of that.
Good. Alder Thomas.
No report.
Alder Bussey.
Nothing new on plan, but we stay tuned. We've got some potential developments coming back along Monona Drive, so
Yes, you do.
stay
It's
tuned.
exciting.
Yep.
Alder O'Connor.
No report.
Alder Spate was excused, left a few minutes ago. So Alder Wood.
A couple things. License Review Committee will be meeting next Tuesday afternoon. Discuss two things. The new state law that authorizes pub peddle, liquor, I don't know.
Bars.
Bars, I guess. I'm not really.
Quadricycles.
Unless communities pass an ordinance prohibiting them. So we'll be discussing that, whether that's something that's practical or something we want in the city, and making a recommendation to council. And the other thing is bringing back again to the committee the outdoor alcohol consumption ordinance, so that we'd really like to bring that. That will need to go to the Plan Commission after license review, and then bring it to the council this spring, hopefully. And the other thing is, it is the library's 50th anniversary, and there's 4 main events that are planned right now. Just quickly, the first one is, and these, I'm not sure if these are on the library's website yet or not, but they will be soon, I'm sure, is a high tea Downton Abbey theme on April 27th. A Very Hungry Caterpillar Garden Tea Party in May. A pig roast and square dance at the Fireman's Park Shelter in September. And a night at the library with a 1960s theme in November.
I like it. Good. City Clerk.
No report, Mayor.
City Administrator.
Just a few things. We do have a Public Works Committee meeting coming up Wednesday, and a Zoning Board of Appeals meeting on Thursday. And also, any of the alders that would like an article or have an idea for an article for the summer fall newsletter, the deadline for those is February 14th.
The real deadline, or the deadline before the deadline that precedes the real deadline?
I am the messenger.
Okay.
It's February 14th. That's all I have, Mayor.
All right. Mayor will be appearing at the Public Works Committee member meeting tomorrow night. So
Wednesday
night will be exciting. So I invite you all to join me there. As mentioned, the new website is up, and I cannot stress enough to the public, it is overwhelming the amount of capability, ability. I tip my hat again to the staff. I think it is an unbelievably well-designed website, perhaps a bit daunting, so we are going to have every couple weeks or once a month a little tidbit in terms of what you can bite off a morsel here and there. But I really urge the public to really try out the website. It works for its alert system, the ability to be notified when there's emergencies or breaking news within our community. It does indeed work. I received 2 alerts for broken water mains, which were unfortunate last week. But it also reminded me I had a city council meeting tonight. It reminds me that Public Works is coming up, and it has the ability of customizing it to your interests and your taste. And hopefully in time we will be going through the library systems to provide training so that staff at the library can help you out if you have questions, and also at the senior center, because it's only as good now going forward as what the public puts into it. I think staff has done a remarkable job. And then finally, I just want to acknowledge, as I mentioned, these 2 water mains. I cannot think of a worse job that there was on earth when it was 14 below zero to go dig a muddy hole on Tony Watha and work from 6 a.m. until 3:30 p.m. to repair water mains. But we have staff that was willing and able and capable to do so. So I tip my hat to the Public Works staff. And with that, do we have any appointments this evening? There are no appointments, so I would entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Or we could continue to stay here and visit. So
You guys can stay.
there's a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting's adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for coming, Marie. Thank you, David.
Cast a vote.